not only representing all of Philadelphia, but to show the rest of our nation that the AAPI community is alive, well, and a very important part of our electorate. We're here today to make sure Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the rest of the country understands the role the Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiian community play in our electoral landscape. I just want to share a few stats on this. I think this information might be out there, but I just wanted to tell you, Philadelphia County has approximately 8% AAPI. The size of the population is 121,752, and AAPI eligible voter share of the county is 10.6%. That can make a huge difference in an election if we all turn out, if you're all engaged, if you all feel seen. And this is what the Biden-Harris campaign is doing. It's making sure we roll out this coalition to show our residents in this city and the state that we are an important constituency group and we need to be participating in our election. And more importantly, we need to highlight what the Biden-Harris administration has done for our communities. As you know that with this, all what happened in the pandemic really impacted our communities, which has a high percentage of small businesses. And the support we got from the administration to keep us going was invaluable. The pushback against AAPI hate crime has been invaluable, right? So we are heard and seen. We have a vice president who is AAPI and African American. What else could you want? We have the embodiment of what it means and what it takes to get there. And so, today we are assembled here with community members, with important party officials, and those who are in the electoral landscape who have managed to get elected. Not easy to do, right? When you look like me and we look like our commissioner from Montgomery County, Makhija, who will speak in a minute, people don't automatically assume that you're part of the political landscapes, right? We have to break through on that. And that is why when you vote, it's really important, because then that segment of the population is making a statement that we want representation, we want to be seen. Because with representation comes resources. We have in our audience here, community members from different groups within the AAPI diaspora. We are a wide range of communities with different languages. We don't have any single tying attribute, except for the fact that we all value our family, we all value our education. We want to make sure that we are part of the fabric and we're participating. The participation of the Philadelphia's AAPI community, while we're 8%, 11% in the small business environment. That's huge. Giving resources, putting tax dollars into our revenue stream is so important, because that's the only way we give services, right? That's the only way we can show people government is working. So I am very grateful to the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community, and we must say it because that name is important. It includes everything. We want to make sure you're included, even if it's one person and they hear that, it makes a difference. I know it makes a difference for me, who's a Bangladeshi American community member, and we don't have that many folks who are from my part of the world. So it's important when they see someone like me that I articulate it and I call them out and I say, I see you. So when I say I see you, they also see me. And with that, I want to say that I am fully engaged in this campaign to make sure the Biden-Harris ticket gets another 4 years, because we've seen what they do. Absolutely. I am a scientist by training and I'm evidence-based. So I look at the evidence. Let's not have superficial things distract us. Look at what has been delivered. And And as someone who is very invested, and I'll say this one last thing, in a very specific issue that impacts the entire world is maternal mortality. And it was because of Vice President Harris who pushed on that when she was a senator, when she ran for president, when she came into office, that we now have a omnibus bill. And we are actually looking at that bill to make sure that women and working people don't die at childbirth. Because if we don't have our new citizens, who's going to run this country, right? So we now must invest. Every one of you was born, right? And you were born successfully. And we want to make sure we have everybody doing that. And I am personally grateful to the president for signing the omnibus bill, because now the state of Pennsylvania is doing that. And we locally in Philadelphia are looking to pass legislation around that as well. So with that, I want to say the investment that the Biden-Harris team has made in our country, in our state, and in our city itself has been amazing. Let's keep it going. Let's make sure we're all riding with Biden. And with that, I want to introduce my friend, like me, a first-time elected official, for first time ever in Montgomery County to be a commissioner from the AAPI community, and not only that, we're South Asian. So, Neil Makhija, it is such a pleasure to welcome you. Please come and say a few words.
Hello, everybody. My name is Neil Makhija. I'm currently serving as Commissioner of Montgomery County, and just last year I was elected alongside Nina to be the first South Asian and Asian American, not only in Montgomery County, but in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And this is part of a much bigger story. In the last 6 years, we had no representation in our community. Patty Kim was the first actually in 2012. She became the first state legislator in Harrisburg. But just since 2018, 2020, and 23, we now have 6 elected officials representing almost 3 million people in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, in Montgomery County, in Allegheny County. And one of the things that we see and we recognize is that our community is starting to step up in a way that has never happened before. So in 2020, we saw nearly double the turnout in Asian American communities. And we saw that in Pennsylvania, we saw that in Georgia, we saw that in Arizona. And President Biden recognized that. When we were fighting for H.R. 1 and the For the People Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, he recognized that Asian Americans are the most likely to vote by mail, for example. And we know that what is at stake right now is democracy itself, and we saw in 2020 the attack on voting rights. And that's not something that is just an attack on anyone, right? It's not on everyone. It's on the groups of people who have started to vote, who have started to show their power, who have started to turn out, and that includes us. So in Pennsylvania, we have 600,000 Asian Americans and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. That's over 350,000 who are in the electorate, who are registered, who are eligible to vote, and that's 3.5% of the electorate. In Pennsylvania, 3.5% is a landslide. So if we turn out our community, if we engage members of our community across the board, we can make the margin. And that's something the president has recognized. And in 2024, we will make the margin, because we are starting out today by launching this. We have 2 tremendous staff members from our community. Nikki, our Pennsylvania State Director, who's Deputy Director. That's never happened before. That shows not just here at the staff level, elected officials, all the way up to the Vice President of the United States, our community is taking a seat at the table, and we're doing so because we also have a leader in Joe Biden who recognizes the dire need to include our communities in this broader mission of saving democracy. And you're going to hear from some members of the administration who are here in their personal capacities to tell you more about what he's done in terms of making sure this is the most diverse administration in American history. But the final thing I would just want to say is we're at a place now where we have a moment to engage every member of our community, people who haven't voted, people who maybe aren't as partisan as other communities because we're newer immigrant communities. We haven't had the same decades and decades of history here in the country, but it's an opportunity to share the values that brought us here, that brought our families here. So I grew up in Carbon County. My parents immigrated from Mumbai. You can imagine it was a very natural transition between those two places. But there was a common value between my neighbors who came from steel workers and coal mining families to my dad who worked in a bread factory for cents on the hour in Mumbai. It's this idea that if you work hard, you should have opportunity, and America is a place for everyone, as opposed to being a country that is simply for a particular race or religion, which some people want to take us back to and want to enact laws that take us back that are driven specifically by that vision. So we are fighting for this idea of multiracial democracy. It will not happen unless all of us step up. But here in this room, you give me hope and inspiration, and seeing leaders here at the highest levels of government and in the campaign, we're going to make a difference, and we will make the margin in 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Councilor Ahmad. We appreciate your leadership and you being here. So for folks who don't know me, I'm Nikki Nikki Lou. I'm the President's campaign manager here in Pennsylvania, and the first Vietnamese woman to run a presidential campaign in Pennsylvania. So look, guys, I'll be quick, but I'll say it straight, right? Pennsylvania elects presidents, and the stakes in this election could not be higher for this country and for our communities, especially the Asian American community. What we know is that right here in Pennsylvania, coming off of the debate last week, we knocked over 10,000 doors statewide on Saturday and Sunday, including all 66 wards of Philadelphia right here. We also opened 12 offices over the last 3 weeks, bringing our infrastructure up to 36 offices statewide. We are building an operation to win, and we also have a president and a principal at the top of the ticket who is the only person who has beat Donald Trump. Just this past weekend, President Biden was right here in Pennsylvania. He went to a black church in Philly, and over 600 congregants literally sung his praises. Then we went to Harrisburg, and with less than 48 hours notice, over 600 supporters showed up to support him. What this tells me is that while the Beltway class has written President Biden off, Pennsylvania wants to re-elect him because they know him and they are ready to do their job.
That's right.
That's right. So listen, there's a clear contrast in this race for our community. A vision for this country that wants to take us forward, that wants to give every American a fair shot, and a vision for this country that's based on retribution, revenge, and lies in Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a MAGA extremist who wants to take away our fundamental rights and who does not care about the issues that this community has fought so hard to have visibility on. So I'm here today to remind us that we have one job, and that is re-electing President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris and Senator Bob Casey this November. And I'm really excited to welcome someone who really needs no introduction, but who knows what's at stake for our communities and can talk about the accomplishments of his administration, because she is a testament to the President's commitment to Asian American communities. So with that, I'd love to welcome the Honorable Julie Singh.
Okay, I hate speaking after elected officials and campaign leaders. And I have so much respect, I have to say today, for people who put themselves out there, who run for office, and who serve in the way that you have. And I'm just very grateful for that. And really excited to be here with all of you. And thank you so much for letting us use your beautiful space. You are so representative of, the reasons why we are proud in this community to have so many small business owners who actually are the lifeblood of their communities and of local communities, and great gathering spaces. So I'm Julie Sue. I am the daughter of immigrants. I'm so happy to be here in the birthplace of our nation's democracy to talk a little bit about my own origin story. Like many of you, I am the child of immigrants. And whether you yourself are an immigrant, whether you're the child of immigrants or the great-great-great-grandchild of immigrants, that is one of the important stories of our community, right? And I grew up translating for my parents, as so many immigrant children do. And so I learned really early on the power of language, the power of translation, the power of inclusion. And so I went to law school to become a translator in the language of law for people who were marginalized, discriminated against, and exploited. And I spent almost 20 years at an organization now called Asian Americans Advancing Justice in Los Angeles. So my heart, my roots are in our community's work. And so I'm just so grateful for all you are doing here, because I really have 3 words for you, and they build on the 3 amazing people you've already heard. Margin of victory. Woo! You all, right here in Pennsylvania, are the margin of victory in this election. You all see every poll, everything you look at, how close this election is going to be. And the margin of victory, the last time around, and including this time around, is going to be our community. It's going to be how AA and HPIs vote, whether AA and HPIs vote, and how we can communicate to our family members, our friends, and our neighbors that they need to get out there and vote. And as has already said, there could not be more at stake in this election. So let me say a little bit about, since I get to see up close, what we have been doing and what the president can deliver. I want to say a little bit about that, especially in ways that really matter to our community. So the first thing is, of course, good jobs, right? I'm only here because after my parents immigrated, after they got jobs working minimum wage and struggling to get by, my mom got a union job working for the county of Los Angeles, and that job changed our lives. It got us health benefits, it got her retirement, it got her predictable hours, it let her come home at night so that we could be together, and let us go to the doctor once we got sick. So good jobs is fundamental to this president's agenda. The second is small businesses. We have had more small business investment, more capital for small businesses, more access to that capital for more businesses in this administration than in any in history. So this president understands the importance of small businesses and understands that our community is key to that. The other thing is healthcare, right? Something that everybody needs, everybody benefits from, and our community gets it, both from as consumers of healthcare, but also as people who work in healthcare, right? And this president has done more to, both when he was vice president, but now to bring down the cost of healthcare, to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. That has affected over 2 million AA and HPI elders across this country. So the things that he is doing are directly affecting the health and well-being of our community. And that's really, really important, right? That really matters. And it's about being seen, it's about being heard, it's about knowing what issues affect our community. The other is language access, right? If you don't think about the ANHCI community, you're not going to think about the languages that are needed. And one thing that happens in government a lot is that people will say, well, we don't need things translated into Asian languages because those communities don't ever come to us seeking help, which is a really perverse way of thinking about it, because people can't come to you seeking help if you don't have the language capability to communicate with them. And this president, this administration has made more languages available across all of our services than also any time in the history of this country. And that matters to this community because you are seen, you are heard, you are represented. And the last thing I just want to say about sort of, specific things about the ANHPAC community is we know, as has already been said, we are also a diverse community. And when we don't tell the full story of our community, you don't know what's really going on, right? The aggregate data about AA and HPIs tells one story. The ethnic-specific data tells a very different one. And shout out to our friends and leaders from the Cambodian American community who know that firsthand, who know that when it comes to business and hate crimes and deportation and immigration status, all of those things affect certain communities a certain way. And so one of the things that we've done across this administration is broken down the data so we can tell a fuller story about what's happening in our communities. That's the only way you will genuinely be able to serve everybody within the AA and HPI diaspora. And so all of those things matter in this administration because we matter in this administration, we're represented in this administration. The other thing is just generally, right, this president's investments are making life better for all Americans, which includes our community. So we need, in all of our communities, good roads and bridges. We need to know that there's clean drinking water that flows out of every faucet. We need to know that there's access to high-speed, reliable internet. And those things are being delivered because this president has made more investments in infrastructure, in manufacturing, in clean energy, in our climate crisis. I mean, we're all sweating, right? We know that the climate crisis is real, and to the point about we have to be based in science and fact. That is what this president is. And so he's making investments to address these things in ways that are going to benefit us too. We all need good modernized airports. He's making that happen. We all need safety in our communities. He's making that happen. So the work that he is doing every single day is making life better in our communities, and that matters. His approach to seeing every single person and recognizing that everybody matters, it matters. So the only other thing I want to say, because you can all read about his policies, you can all look at what has been accomplished under this president, and again, I'm very proud of it. We should all be proud of it. But the other thing is, in a lot of elections, you don't know what the other guy is going to do, right? You've got an incumbent, and you got sort of like a candidate. We actually know what the other guy's going to do. We've seen what he is going to do. And so the one thing that I know that is common for all of us here is that during COVID, there was a president in this country who took advantage of a crisis and turned it into a weapon against AA and HPIs every single day. To the point where my mom, who's now in her 80s, she was afraid to leave her house. My parents stopped taking walks because the amount of anti-Asian hate that was unleashed by a president who decided that calling a global pandemic, the Kung flu, a China virus, that those kinds of things were appropriate for a national leader, and that the consequences that occurred from that didn't matter to him, is outrageous to me. It is outrageous to me. And even if you put aside all the other big accomplishments of this administration, which again I'll stand by, with every breath I have, when you just look at what happened to our community. So, I was a civil rights lawyer for almost 20 years, like I said, before I joined government. I used to track hate crimes. There were more hate crimes under the Donald Trump administration, more incidents of anti-Asian violence, more, like, get out of this country, go back to where you're from, in 2020 than there were in the 10 years that we were documenting that before. So leadership matters. And President Biden, one of the first things he did when he came into office, he signed the COVID-19 anti-hate crimes bill. So we know exactly what we're looking at. We know exactly what the other guy's going to do, and we know what President Biden is going to do. And so the stakes this election could not be higher. The Councilwoman already said this, and we know what it means for our community. We've seen it already, and we cannot go back to that. So we can elect a man who is decent. At the end of the day, decisions are made based on people's values, right? Decisions about everything from huge national security questions to what community you're going to listen to and who you're going to invest in. And I know that this president is a decent man. He's not only bold and can deliver and do other things, he's also decent. He also cares. He looks at things in terms of how can we build communities rather than tear them down. He looks at how do we bring people together rather than divide them. He looks at how do we build hope, not anger. And to me, that is the president that we want. That's the country that our ancestors, that we ourselves came to build, came to be a part of. So let's elect a president who can build a country for all of us. And thank you so much for being here.
Stand up. She's our candidate running for the House seat 137. She drove hour and a half to be here to show her support and for us to know that we need Anna in our Pennsylvania House because we have a very narrow margin. And so if you have friends in her district, just spread the word. Even if you're living in Philadelphia, tell your friends and family. We need President Biden all the way down to Anna Thomas to make sure we safeguard our democracy. So thank you, Anna, for this.
Okay.